Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Welcome to Season 8 of the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sulon Carrick and I'm back with you for another season. I can't believe that it's already up to Season 8. I love bringing stories of women who are living well after 50 and chatting with women who are just not waiting around for life to happen to them. They're taking life head on, or they're helping women to live healthier and active lifestyles. Now, if you're a woman over 50, you probably already know how frustrating it can be to gain excess weight, no matter how healthy our diet is or how much we exercise. And you're finding perhaps that weight loss strategies that worked for you in the past aren't giving you the results anymore. So why is that so? My guest today is going to be discussing the new rules for weight loss after menopause and working with changing hormones. Wendy Hodge, my guest today, is founder of Wendy's Way to Health and a precision nutrition certified coach. Her mission is to help women over 50 regain their mojo and live healthier lives during menopause and beyond. So if you're ready to shed stubborn weight and boost your energy to feel better than ever, stay tuned and listen to the conversation that I'm having with Wendy today. So let's go and join the conversation. Welcome, Wendy. It's lovely to have you join me on the Women Living Well After 50 podcast.
Oh, thank you. It's fabulous to be here.
Now, we're actually friends and we used to live near each other, and I've missed seeing you since I've moved a couple of years ago now. So it's lovely to have a catch up and to see what you've been doing and what you have to offer women over 50. So what I want to do is start by just getting you to tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and what your background is and what you do working with women.
Okay. Well, my background, I've been in the nutrition health, I've been in health and fitness for like a long, long time. I was more involved in the exercise side of things, like quite a few years ago. And it's been the last, I don't know, probably 15-ish years that I've been more into nutrition. It was after we'd done some traveling and lived overseas for a while and came home to Australia, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do when we came back. And I fell into a job at Jenny Craig as a was called weight loss consultant at the time, and just discovered that I absolutely loved it. Just absolutely loved everything about nutrition and healthy eating and the whole thing, and just wanted to go off and do it for myself on my own, have to start my own business, and so I did. And that was 10 years ago. Yeah, because that was 2014, so a little bit over about the middle of 2014. Roughly 10 years ago when I first started that. And obviously that was very, very different when I first started out to what I'm actually doing now, because it's evolved so much over the years. All I wanted to do when I first started out was just coach one-on-one, just coach women one-on-one, keep doing pretty much what I'd done at Jenny Craig, and do some online so I could reach people around the world as well as, not just locally, local people. And then it's just evolved from there. It's grown into digital products and programs. And as you know, I've just launched my latest program, which I'm kind of calling my signature program. And that's, I've delivered that, when I can get the word out. I'm delivering that inside my membership that I've had going for not quite a year, since the beginning of this year. So I guess that's about it in a nutshell.
Great. So let's talk about the topic today, which folds in with your signature program, and it's we get to a stage in our life and we might have been going on quite well, and then we hit perimenopause and menopause hits and then postmenopause. And for many of us, we tend to, our hormones are all out of whack, and we tend to, that's when we tend to put on weight and we can't shift it. And, you know, it's so hard to lose that weight. So before we talk about your new rules, which you have come up with, new rules for weight loss after menopause, why is it so hard for us to lose that weight? Some of us have been quite slim in the past and then suddenly, and especially that belly fat and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Gosh, well, it's basically changing hormones, but it's not, it's not just, it's just a big complicated picture, because our bodies just go through so many changes at menopause, before, as you say, perimenopause, then as we go through menopause and afterwards. And I think a lot of women don't realize that once you've been through menopause, you are post-menopausal, and that's it. That's your body's changed. You're post-menopausal for the rest of your life. There's no going back. There's no, turning the clock back or changing things, or, as much as you may wish things could be different, they're not. That's the way things are. Your body's changed, and it remains, your physiology remains changed for good. I guess a lot of women are I've discovered that a lot of women are in the position that I was in when I went through menopause, which was a few years ago now. And thankfully now we are talking about it a lot more now. And a lot of women know a lot more and are a lot better educated. And I thought I kind of knew what to expect, like I knew about the mood swings, the hot flushes, moodiness, brain fog, just the kind of the standard typical things that we hear about. I knew to expect those, but I just kind of assumed. So I guess in some ways I did kind of go into it fairly kind of ignorant, because I assumed that because I was healthy, because I was looking after myself, I was eating well, I was exercising, I was going to be fine, and I'd be able to manage, those symptoms, and everything would be great. And then over time, it wasn't, and things just got worse and worse and worse and worse for me. And you wouldn't have actually seen any of this, because this was probably not long after you moved away, kind of thing. I was struggling quite often when we used to go for our runs together. I was struggling and finding it really difficult to breathe, and just feeling like, like I wasn't fit enough to be doing the run. And I just kept thinking, this is crazy, and, you've got that negative voice in your head. Negative voice in my head just kept saying, this is, don't be stupid. Don't be, what's wrong with you? You can do this, keep up. And then I eventually discovered, and then I started gaining the belly fat, gaining weight, and thinking, why? This doesn't make sense. I eat well, I'm exercising, and you do. I did the same thing that, a lot of women do, that a lot of women are guilty of as well. And I just kept pushing harder and harder and harder with the exercise. I didn't really, because I've never really believed in dieting. I just kept thinking, well, I'll keep eating well, maybe just, reduce my portions a bit and focus on, that kind of thing, the mindful eating and eating slowly and all that kind of thing. And, exercise, I just kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And it was just totally the wrong thing to do, because I just kept putting my body under more and more stress. And then I eventually kind of went, I really need to figure out what the hell's going on here, because I put up with it for too long, as you do. You just keep going and going and going, thinking, oh, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. Eventually, I was like, no, there's something wrong. Did some research and found out everything that I know now, and learned some courses and learned from the experts.
Yeah, and I think that's a point too. Like, I'm probably guilty of that in the past, of if you put on a bit of weight, you think, oh, okay, well, I'll just run harder, or I'll run myself ragged, or try and use up all those calories, and that sort of thing. And that's not necessarily the way to do it. Now, for me, I love running and I'll always run, but I'm not as and I still do my longer distances, but I'm not as hard on myself. I'm not sort of, I think you have to learn to be a bit kinder with yourself without copping out, if you know what I mean.
Exactly. And that's what I think a lot of women struggle with. They kind of think, oh no, I can't take it easy, because, then things are just going to get worse. The weight's just going to gain more and more weight. It's, as you say, it's being kind to yourself, but doing it in a way that's nurturing and looking after yourself, and not being detrimental, because if you just keep pushing harder and harder and harder, it just makes things worse, because our physiology's changed. Our estrogen levels drop. And, I didn't even know until I started looking into this, which was, I don't know, 2-3 years ago, whatever. I didn't even know that there were 3 different kinds of estrogen. I just thought, oh, yeah, you hear that estrogen levels drop as you go through menopause, and they fluctuate, they drop, and they stay low, and you just go, right, okay. But then I looked into it and discovered, like, oh, wow, okay, there's actually 3 different kinds. And estradiol, which is the one that is the most beneficial, and it's in the most abundance in our body through most of our lives, and especially through our reproductive years. That's the one that drastically drops, that really fluctuates and drops. And estrone is the one that's not so good for us. That's the one that is responsible, that actually takes over as the more dominant form of estrogen, and that's the one that's responsible for the changes in where our belly fat starts to be stored, or where our fat starts to be stored, and the changes in our metabolism and the increased inflammation. And once I kind of got my head around that and understood all of those kind of things, it was like, oh, okay. And it also can totally throw your microbiome, your gut health totally out of whack.
Yeah,
So,
and that's a big topic that's sort of come to the fore over the last couple of years, hasn't it? Our gut health and the microbiome, and how the gut is sort of like your second brain, that sort of thing. And I think that there is a problem, though, in the fact that there's so much information out there. Now, you're suggesting that, there's new rules for weight loss. And that's obviously come about because things that you've done or others have done in the past hasn't worked. So, we're learning all the time and trying new things, and that's what we should be doing. But there's so much information and so much I suppose, areas, especially on social media, if you scroll through, so many so-called experts out there that you'd be chopping and changing every day if you were saying, oh, I should be trying this, I should be trying that. So, what do you feel? First of all, let's talk about the new rules for weight loss, and then what we can do to implement those.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I say new rules just to try and kind of get the message across, I guess, that, you need to make changes. You need to be doing different things, not just dieting, not restricting, crazily restricting calories, and, and depriving yourself of all of your, your favorite foods and all that sort of thing, and pushing yourself like crazy, doing tons and tons of cardio. I guess that's why I'm saying new rules, because it's not the opposite of that, but it's different, just to get into people's heads that you need to do things.
And I think that's the right idea too, because we're so focused on what we've always done. And if you just say, oh, you need to change, people get a little bit more, oh, I don't know, change is a bit scary. So if you just say new rules, if you're a rule follower like me, you go, oh, okay, let me listen to what this is.
Yeah, that's it. It's to kind of get people's attention, I guess, is the excuse me, is the main thing, to make people go, oh, hang on a minute, there's new rules. What do I need to know?
Exactly.
It's just to say that what we've believed about exercise isn't quite the same. And even dieting may well have worked, before you started going through menopause, before perimenopause diet. There are certain diets that have worked for people in the past. And I know women who have, gone back to those diets after menopause and then found that it's just not working, because, their body's different. So you can't expect to be restricting your calories like crazy, because that puts extra stress on your body when it's already stressed. If you've got the high levels of inflammation and, you're suffering those effects of the estrogen taking over, and you're suffering those effects, you can't just basically keep making things worse, because that's what you're doing if you're dieting, pushing yourself with exercise, especially just doing cardio and not even doing any strength.
And that's the point that it used to be lots of cardio, didn't it? Way back in the
Weight
70s, we'd
loss.
be doing aerobics. We were, that
Mm.
lots of uh, not necessarily running, but lots of cardio work, so a high intensity workout, things like that. But over the last 10 years, in particular for me, it's been brought home that we do need that strength and resistance training because we've got to, you know, maintain our muscle mass and our bone strength as we get older. And I think we focus too much on the cardio rather than having a balanced view of how we're going to move our bodies and what's best for it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And I think a lot of women are still quite put off by strength training, thinking, oh, I don't want big muscles and I don't want to, or they might just find the gym intimidating. I know a lot of people, it can be really intimidating when you're first starting out. Very, very intimidating going into that whole new environment, especially depending on the kind of gym you go to. And yeah, but it's strength training is just so important. And I've learned from, like I said, I've done a few courses and I've done a few, I'm constantly doing research all the time. And one of the people, the biggest ones I follow is Dr. Stacey Sims. I don't know if do you know her or have you seen
No,
any
I
of her?
haven't actually. I'll just make a note of that.
Well, she's
Yeah.
yeah, look her up.
I will.
I've got one of her books. She's written a couple of different books. She's just all about researching women's health and teaching women. She does a lot of the research herself. She's a research scientist, and she's also just keeps herself up to date. And because she's constantly keeping up to date with everything, and then she's passing it on to her followers and everything. That's what I love about her the most. You can really keep up with the latest information about everything, but especially about exercise. And it was from I can't remember her book or from wherever it was anyway, from listening to her talk or whatever it was somewhere, about the biggest thing about exercise is that estrogen we don't realize that it's not just a reproductive hormone, or a lot of women don't realize it's not just a reproductive hormone. It's responsible for a lot of our body systems work. And it actually plays a role before menopause in when we're strength training. So we have to change the way we strength training. Well, to change the way we strength train as well, not just doing strength training, but and obviously if you've never done strength training, you don't just jump straight into heavy lifting, into lifting really big heavy weights. You start off with just a standard kind of a program and you build up. But yeah, lifting heavy, apparently it stimulates your cells and your muscle fibers in a way that estrogen used to, that it just isn't able to anymore because we don't have those levels of estrogen anymore. So that's why lifting heavy is promoted as being beneficial.
Yeah, and I think that you're right about women, or just in general. Weight training is not sexy really in terms of who wants to go and lift weights all the time, although I quite enjoy it. But it can be intimidating going to the gym and all of that. So it is difficult to try and get started. But as you say, you can even start with body weight exercises and then start, because it's all to do with our functional fitness as well. We want to be able to bend and stretch and push and pull and lift and carry. And if we don't have the strength to do that, then we're not going to age well. And we don't want to be like that, do we? We want to be, as healthy as we can be. So we need to, look at the way we move our bodies and exercise. And I think that's the thing too. We say find something you enjoy to do, to exercise, and that's great. But there's no getting away from making sure that we've got our heart health working with the cardio and the strength training and resistance training. So I think you have to look at it in the way of, this is what I'm doing because I want to be healthy and active. And it's sort of like things that we have to do, whether we like it or not, if we want to be able to have quality of life when we get older. So we've
Exactly.
talked a little bit about that. What about one of your other rules, or your top rule, number one, is your prioritizing protein and fiber. And this is the other thing. People start thinking, oh gosh, have I got to measure this? Have I got to do that? And you talk about people talking about macros and micros, and it's certainly for the average person, the average woman just who doesn't have training in those areas, it's easy to understand where they go, oh, it's all too hard, I'll just go and have a donut.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so let's talk about protein and fiber and
And
why we need to prioritize that.
yeah, well, everyone's talking about protein. Well, everyone, I think, in women's health, and especially in women's health for older women, everyone's talking about protein, protein, protein. And I mean, yeah, as you say, it's not just that women are kind of like, oh, I don't really understand how to do it or how much or whatever, so they throw their hands up. But it's also that I think they get sick of hearing it too. They
Yes, yeah.
I see it all the time, my social media feed and what have you. And, you're just like, oh God, okay, enough, enough, enough. I've heard enough about it. If people just keep bashing you over the head with it, you don't really want to know. But it is, yeah, super duper important. Well, it's important to have the right balance of macronutrients, and protein is, it builds your muscle, helps to keep your muscles strong, because not just menopause, but just as we age, as we get older, we lose a certain amount of muscle every year. And I think it's like, I can't think what the actual percentage is, but it's a certain percentage every decade that we actually lose, which is quite scary. So if you're not doing anything, if you're not doing any strength training, and if you're not eating enough protein, then your muscles are basically kind of wasting away, instead of at least being able to maintain them. So if you're eating the right amount of protein, then you're going to at least maintain your muscle mass, regardless of whether you're doing any strength training or whatever. At least you're going to be maintaining. You're not going to be building muscle, but at least you're going to be maintaining it, and your bone
Mm,
density.
mm,
Yes, that's kind of what
mm.
it's really important for.
Yes.
It's also good for your appetite. It can keep you full. So, if you do have that weight loss goal, if you're eating enough protein and fiber, if you're combining those together in a meal and eating the right amounts, then, that's going to make you feel full, make you feel more satisfied, and also curb those cravings, because, that's another thing, your sugar cravings could go out of control with the hormonal imbalances as well.
Mm. So how do we know how much fiber and how much protein we should be having for
Yeah.
it to be effective?
Yeah, well, I like to just try and keep it simple. I see people all over the place, quoting amounts. You should be having X
Oh,
amount
yeah.
per, so many grams per kilogram or pound of body weight, depending on if you're in metric or imperial system and whatever. And for me, that's just all too hard.
Mm,
I
I
like to follow,
agree.
yeah, yeah, and I think most people do, like
Yeah.
it's simple. um, I like to follow my precision nutrition training. As you know, I I did my nutrition certification with Precision Nutrition when I first got certified 10 years ago, and they have a process where you have to keep recertifying every 2 years to keep yourself up to date, which I think is great. So yeah, I follow, just pretty much follow their guidelines, which is just a really simple thing. They like to use hand portions, and I like to use hand portions. So when you're talking about protein, you're just talking about using the palm of your hand, and you're talking about the palm of your hand being roughly, that's the size of one portion of
Mm-hmm.
protein. And
Mm.
having one portion, at least one portion, one to two portions, say if you're having a main meal, but one portion with every meal. And even trying to have a portion, half a portion, whatever, in snacks sometimes, so having it in, say, a smoothie, or, whatever you're eating as a snack, but definitely having it at each of your main meals, making sure you're having at least one serving, which is one palm-sized portion, which is not that hard to do.
Mm. Mm.
It's not like you have to be eating, tons and tons and tons of chicken breast, or, chicken, or Greek yogurt, lots and lots of yogurt, or even, tons of protein shakes. Protein shakes are great if you, if you do have trouble getting the amounts that you
Mm,
want
mm.
to eat.
I try to, yeah, I'll have one of those just to supplement in case I haven't had it at the three meals. So if I know if I make that, in a smoothie, at least I know that I'm getting that. And then if I miss it at one of the other meals, well, at least I've got myself covered. And the fibre is another important thing because, I mean, fibre for me is all about, bowel cancer. If you need to be aware of that. I do because I've got a family history of that. So, that's all to do with clearing out your body and keep getting rid of the toxins. So your fibre is more about your fruit and veg and your whole grains and legumes and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, your nuts and your seeds and your beans, all of that. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, it can be as simple as adding, again, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be eating beans at every meal and just, trying to cram all of these foods in. It can be as simple as putting a little sprinkle, half a tablespoon or a spoonful of ground flaxseed into your breakfast
Mm-hmm.
cereal or into
Mm-hmm.
a shake, a smoothie, or, something like that. That can just help to give that extra little boost. And there are, obviously certain things that are higher. If you're making a snack or a healthy breakfast, a chia pudding, that kind of thing, chia seed pudding. And if you're using, a plant-based milk, or you're using some yogurt and Greek yogurt, skyr, that kind of thing, it's just, there are ways of doing it, but it's about being intentional. And like you were saying before with the exercise, we say do things that you enjoy, but there are parts to it that you just need to do just because they're good for you, and because because it will be beneficial. It will be good for your health. And it's exactly the same with healthy eating. It's people say, oh, but I don't like that, or oh, but I don't like, whatever. And it's not that you have to cut out all of the things that you love. It's just being intentional about, okay, this is good for me. This is this is going to be the best thing I can do to to keep myself healthy and well and fit and strong. So you do the basics, and then you still have room for the fun things.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you keep that baseline, and I know I feel so much better when I'm eating healthier than when I'm just, I try to have, for me, it's an 80-20 rule. Like
Yeah.
if I go out and, it might be a birthday or it might be something, I'm going to have a piece of cake or but normally at home I won't have that, and so you keep that sort of balance going. And I think we've got to change our attitude too, because food can be delicious even if it is healthy. And so we've sort of been brought up as treats being cakes and sugary things, but it doesn't have to be that. It can be beautiful, fresh food. And it's just our attitudes have to change, as you say, new rules coming through from what we've been brought up with. And but I know myself, if I'm eating well and I'm having a regular exercise program, I just feel so much better than,
Yeah.
yeah, and more focused, and I feel I'm achieving, and it just helps you mentally as well. Your mindset is much more positive.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, we're sort of getting on into the interview. We've got about 10 minutes to go, but another one was before we get on to your program is embracing lifestyle changes. So things like sleep, because that is something that I have and always will, I think, have trouble with. But that can be a big issue, and stress. That can probably add to our weight gain, even though we don't think it might will.
Yep, definitely, absolutely. Well, that's the thing. As we age, it's not just menopause that triggers not sleeping well, but as we get older, apparently we don't sleep as deeply. We have a lot more light sleep, and we just wake up more often. Apparently, as we age and get old, we wake up more often through the night. So, one of the biggest things I think with sleep is again, mindset. It's not being stressed about it. It's not, going to bed going, oh my God, I'm not going to sleep again, or I'm, or I'm going to have a terrible night's sleep. Because if that's the mindset you're in, then that's probably what's going to happen. That's what you're setting yourself up for. So, and I know it's not as easy. It's not as simple as just, flicking a switch and being in a positive mindset. It takes quite a bit to get there, but you can get there. And also just being informed and knowing these things, like knowing that, okay, I'm not necessarily going to sleep as well as I used to when, a few years ago, 10 years ago. If you used to be a great sleeper, I did. I used to be like such a great sleeper. And every now and then I just kind of go, oh God, I wish I could just sleep like I used to. But it's just, it's not going to be, and you just have to accept that and excuse me, and be prepared. And if you are going through the phases of things like the night sweats, it's again being prepared. It's not waking up and being in a lather of sweat and then getting really angry and annoyed about it and then not being able to get back to sleep. It's being prepared for it, going, okay, well, chances are before you go to bed, chances are tonight, that's going to happen. I am going to wake up. So you have a spare fresh pair of pajamas, or whatever by the bed ready into. Or you get up. What I used to do when I kind of started learning techniques and things, what I used to do was just really simple. I would get up, I would wake up and be like, oh my God, here we go. Actually just get out of bed, go to the toilet, and just that simple act would kind of cool my body down a bit, or I guess give that time for it to pass, for that because it is just a longer kind of hot flush when you have those night sweats. And then by the time I got back into bed, the bed had cooled off a bit as well, because I had gotten up and left the covers off, get back into bed, and then you can kind of go back to sleep. It's just learning a few little techniques and strategies and things to to not stress about not being able to sleep, and being prepared and just accepting that, I am going to wake up more now through the night.
I was just going to say that, acceptance is a big part about menopausal symptoms and that, because, I'm not playing them down, but, it's part of our life. So there are treatments and that you can explore if you want, but it's something that you have to accept. And the more you fight against it, the more you're going to be stressed out and not enjoy life. You can find ways to overcome these certain things, and just that basic acceptance, because I know going back a couple of generations, we would never have known when women went through menopause, because or perimenopause, they never talked about it. They just, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about it. I think it should be out there, and because the more people know, the more comfortable they feel about it, and it's just a part of life. It's not pleasant for some women. For other women, they don't find it quite as difficult. But, I think that acceptance for everything is it, and accepting how you want to live your life in a healthy way as well. If you don't want to do these things, that's fine. You do things that's right for you, but then you don't complain later on when you get chronically ill, or you can't go traveling because you can't lift your bags, or you can't play with your grandchildren. Lots of these things that we talk about are more about being able to enjoy our everyday life if we, choose to follow that path.
Yeah, that's it. It's acceptance is a great word, because that's it. It's like, hey, okay, this is going to happen, so what's the best way I can deal with it? It's acceptance and taking preventative measures. That's what I'm all about. It's okay, what can I do to stay in the best possible shape for the longest possible time? It's not necessarily living to 100 or living to a particular age. It's however long I'm alive and however long I'm here, I want to be in the best possible health that I possibly can.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's exactly right. Now, let's talk about your Midlife Mojo Reset program, because we've talked about these things that we can do for ourselves, and sometimes it's just too hard to do it on our own. You do need that mental strength. And I used to think I was really mentally strong, and I would be focused, and I'd set myself goals and I would achieve them, and I would really work hard. But as you get older, it does get a little bit harder as well to keep that mental strength going. You get tired more easily, or life gets in the way. So that's when we need someone like you to help us. So talk about what you why you created the Midlife Mojo Reset program? Because there's obviously a need for that out there.
Yeah, well, that's it. I know now that there are a lot of women going through what I went through. And, a lot of them are just, I guess, suffering in silence, just doing it quietly, as much as menopause is finally being talked about, which is fantastic. And there are, like loads and loads of people offering solutions. There are lots of women who still are reluctant to get help or just don't know what's going on for whatever reason. Like I get emails sometimes now that I've, kind of changed course and focused on, the whole midlife thing and and being healthy after menopause. And I've got my welcome email series that goes out to women. I get emails sometimes now. I got one just the other day from this woman going, "Oh my God, thank God I'm not the only one." She was like, "I'm so glad." And she found me on Pinterest, like, of all places. And she said, "Thank God I came across you on Pinterest, because the jelly rolls, the belly fat, the weight gain, the not knowing what is, why is this happening?" And she's like, "I'm so glad I found you." And I was just like, yeah, that's why I do this. That's exactly why I created the program. It's for women like me, women like her, who need some help to get through it, who can't do it on their own. And I'd love to be able to get through to the women who I know there are a lot of women, and that's why I try to say post-menopausal a lot and use that term as I can, to try and target the women who have already been through it, who are older, who are in their 60s and 70s and may have kind of given up, given up themselves, or just given up hope of, oh, well, this is just the way it is, because they've tried so many things, or they may have been to the doctor, and so many doctors are not helpful. I know there's a lot of great doctors out there, but so many doctors are just not helpful because they don't really know themselves what's going on. And they just say, "Oh, that's just menopause, deal with it, that's just what you have to put up with." And that's not true. So I would love to be able to get through to those women as well, the ones who who have kind of given up on themselves and just gone up. That's the way it is. Or also, there's a lot of women, I think it's a very Australian thing as well, where and I hear it so often, "Oh, I know what to do, I'm just not doing it."
Yeah, yeah.
I know what to do, and I just don't have time right now. I will. I'll when I retire, or when the kids are off my hands, or when when that, all of that, that kind of don't have time for it right now. And I'm kind of trying to say gently and kindly to women in their 60s and 70s, well, if not now, then when? You're not, I don't want to say you're running out of time, because that sounds awful, but you know what I mean? It's just like,
well, I know, I'm 67 now. And you do think about your mortality as well, because you never know what's going to happen. But you have to, if you want to make the most of it, of life, you have to look after yourself and make yourself a priority. So what can women expect from the program?
Okay. Well, I've put it into 3 modules. When I first created it, I was thinking of, a 3-week thing. Not that you go through the program in 3 weeks and then that's it, you're done. But you can go through each of the 3 modules. There are 5 lessons in each module. There's a little introduction at first, and that gives a little bit of education around, the physiology, the changes that are happening in your body. It doesn't go into huge detail, just gives a little bit of information, just so you know, because I think it's, for me, that's how I like to approach things anyway. I like to know why, the why behind. Okay, well, you're telling me to do this, but why? So there's a little bit of that educational stuff in the introduction to explain about the changes, and this is why I'm saying that you need to be doing this and this and this in the following modules. And then module 1, there's 5 lessons on nutrition that go through the different changes and explain all the different things that you can do. There's sample meal plans. Obviously, there's tons and tons of recipes and all that kind of thing as well. And then we go into exercise in module 2, and we talk about exercise. Exercise. Sorry, no, the sleep is the next one. The different changes, the different forms of exercise, and why and how you should be changing your exercise. So if you're doing your regular strength training, or even if you're just doing, regular HIIT classes like I used to, all those little things, just all those, they're little nuanced changes, but That's what makes all the difference. And then the third one is the sleep, rest, and recovery, which is also so important, but a lot of women put aside. You know, they kind of go, oh, I haven't got time for that right now. I'm too busy, and you know, I'm too stressed. And it's like, yeah, that's why you need to look at stress management, because you're so stressed. But yeah, so it's each of those. And then there's coaching as well. There's a community where the women ask questions. They can direct message me as well through, there's an inbox messaging system as well, and a group community area, which is kind of like, it's like a little Facebook feed, a little very simplified Facebook feed, which is great. So, you know, you pop in there, they can talk to each other, they can ask me questions, they can keep themselves accountable. I post a daily accountability thread in there, so you can say what you're doing, where you're up to, again, and ask any questions and get help as you go along, you know, because that's the thing. One thing to say, oh, I know what to do, but it's another thing to actually do it. So to have somebody there, not cracking the whip, you know, as you know, I'm not like
encouraging and supporting, but also it makes you, you know, like you've made that commitment to, so you are sort of putting yourself out there when you join something like that, or in your Facebook group, but it keeps you accountable, and nothing's better than someone else keeping you accountable.
Just that little gentle prod, you know. So if I haven't heard from someone for a few days or a week or something, it's just giving them a little nudge, sending them a message and saying, hey, is everything okay? Sometimes they're just, most of the time it's just that they're busy, you know. It's just, oh yeah, life got on top of me, blah 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 blah. But just giving that little gentle nudge, and because, you know, if you don't get that, then you think, oh, no one cares, you know, I haven't done it for however long, oh, you know, and it's easy to then get out of the habit. So if you've got someone there just giving you that little prod, going, hey, what's going on, are you okay, come back, then
yes, and sometimes we might fall off track, so we feel a bit embarrassed, or we feel we've let ourselves down, or, you know, so it's always, it's good to acknowledge that sometimes life will get in the way. We will fall off track. Things won't go to plan, but you can always come back and get back on track. And I think, you know, rather than saying, oh, well, that's it, I've, you know, failed there, can't do it anymore, rather than saying, okay, well, that was a bit of a blip, now I need to get back. And once you do that, it just sort of really helps you to get back on track. And having a group like you, or you as coaching, really helps to pull people back on track anyway, and they're not alone. And I think that's the important part.
And that gives them that message as well. Yeah, as you say, you know, like if I'm following them up when they're not turning up, then they know that there is someone there who actually cares as well. You know, that's it's not just that you're on your own trying to do it and trying to struggle and, oh God, it's just too hard, give up. When you've got you know that there's someone there who does care about how you're going with it, and if you're getting results, and they care enough that they want to do, you know, help you do whatever it takes to get the results you want, then yeah, that can make all the difference.
That's right. Now, we've got the festive season coming up. So that's always something where I sort of, it's funny because even though I say, oh, you know, I put that to myself, the festive season, but usually Christmas Day, I don't overindulge that much anyway. But, you know, like you go to parties and things like that. Now, part of me, I'm going to say, okay, I'm going to enjoy that. I'm going to maybe have a drink, or I'm going to have something. But what can we do, or have you got something that you're working on that can help us as we lead up to Christmas or the festive season and holidays, to help us stay on track or get started?
Yep. Well, what I try to promote, you know, when you were saying earlier about the 80-20 rule, and that's one of the biggest things that I live by as well and try to promote. And when you do that, and when you've been doing it for like quite a long time, you've just basically got a kind of a way of living that you don't need to take a holiday from. You don't need to take a break from.
No, that's
you've
right.
already factored in those times when you are going to treat yourself, when you are going to, you know, I'm going to go to this party and I'm going to have fun, you know, or I might have an extra drink or two, you know, once or twice through the holiday season, and you know, so what? It's all factored in when you've got that baseline that you're working from and that you keep coming back to. And it's just wrapping your head around it. It's mindset, you know, more than anything, isn't it? It's wrapping your head around the idea that it's okay. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. I don't have to be sticking strictly to this healthy way of eating. And if I'm not, then, oh my God, I've done it wrong. I've failed, and I just have to quit and go back to my old ways. And I find people tend to do the same thing with the holiday season. And usually in previous years, I get quite frustrated around this time of year. I go, oh my God, here we go again. We're going into the season. People just make excuses, as they do. It's the holiday season is the best excuse ever to throw everything out the window and just, hey, I'm just going to, and it's not just indulge, it's overindulging that a lot of people tend to do. And I don't think there's any need for it. Well, and I think you do kind of realize that as you get older too, I think, as well. You don't enjoy overindulging as much as maybe you used to when you were younger. But yeah, this year I kind of went, well, hang on a minute. I don't know, because I used to just be prepared to be, okay, I'm going into my quiet time of year. No one's interested in hearing what I have to say. All they care about is, is parties, drinking, all that festive food. That's all they're thinking about. That's all they care about. They don't want to hear from me. So I'll just be quiet until the new year, and then I'll come back with a bang, and when everyone's interested. And this year I just thought, no, hang on a minute. Why don't I just challenge people to get into that mindset now, that 80-20 mindset of, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't have to throw all your healthy habits out. You can keep some of them, and you can indulge, and again, don't just do it on your own. If you want help and support, that's what I'm here for. Take the challenge and come and try it. Just try it on for size and see how it feels to accept. There's that word again of acceptance, just to accept that, hey, I don't have to, be an all or nothing. And again, going back to precision nutrition, they have this, they have basically the same kind of theory and they talk about exercise a lot more so than just general healthy living in general. But they talk about not hitting the pause button, but using a dial instead, where, there are times in your life where you can turn the dial up and you can go a bit more on, if you've got certain goals you want to reach at certain times and certain periods, you can go a bit harder, turn that dial up. Times like with the festive season, when that comes, instead of hitting the pause button and then trying like crazy and so goddamn hard, trying afterwards to get back into things, hit play again, instead of doing that, just turn the dial down. Don't do as much. Do some different exercise activities. Just turn that dial down, switch it up a bit, rather than completely quitting kind of thing. Completely quitting.
Great advice.
All or nothing. So
no, that's right.
So that's the people in my community is to give that a try this year.
Okay. So what I'll be doing, Wendy, is putting all the links to you in the show notes so that people can find out about where to go for your blog, your website generally, your Midlife Mojo Reset program, and also this challenge leading up to the holidays, the 80-20 challenge. So we'll have all that in the show notes, and I'd encourage everyone to let's get on board with that, because it's a great way of thinking, and I like the idea of that dial rather than the pause button. So we've been chatting for quite some time, and it's been so lovely to catch up with you, but also to talk about something that I know you're passionate about that will help other women. So before we close, my last question to you, which I ask all of my guests, is what does being a woman living well after 50 mean to you?
Okay. I think it just means becoming more of yourself without sounding kind of cheesy and corny and cliche, because it's using all the cliches. But it's just becoming more of who you are and living your truth. That's what I have found through my business, really, through having my own business. It's just brought me to a real space of personal growth and spiritual growth. And
yes.
I've found that as I grow as a person, that also grows my business and reflects back into all areas of my life. But yeah, it's becoming more of who you are. And if you don't, I suppose if you don't know who you are, then finding out. doing
Great.
whatever it takes to find out, and
Yeah.
be yourself, be your real, true, authentic self, because yeah.
And when you are like that, you feel such a load lifted off your shoulders. Well, I do. You sort of think, oh, I don't have to be trying to be someone I'm not, because that's just hard work.
Yeah.
Just be who you are. And as you say, if you're true to yourself and if you're um, authentic, people are going to appreciate you more for being who you are. All got our flaws, we've all got our strengths, our weaknesses, everything, and we're all unique and wonderful. So I love that point that you brought up about just being true to yourself. So thank you for joining me today, Wendy. It's been wonderful to catch up. As I said, I'll put the show note links in so people can find you. And I wish you well with your program and your upcoming challenge.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Sue. Thanks for having me.
Well, it was great catching up with Wendy. I haven't seen her for a time, and talking about the new rules for weight loss after menopause. We all struggle with a healthy lifestyle, and we've really talked about some good basic ways we can start being active and healthy and making our health a priority. So remember to check the show notes where I've put all of Wendy's links where you can find her talking about her Midlife Mojo Reset program, maybe the 80-20 challenge as we go into the festive season and holidays. And she really did have some good points for us to ponder. So that's it for this time. Great to be back with you all. And until next time, remember to live well, enjoy life, and most of all, be a woman living life your way. Bye for now.